All right, we're live. As you can see, I'm not quite in position yet, but that's fine. Give me 2 seconds. We'll deal with that. Welcome, everybody. I see a ton of new guys here. So, did not expect it to grow this fast. Really glad it did. Guys, congratulations and welcome to this. What are we on? Week 41, 42, 43 of the Patreon weekly Q&A. For those who don't know, what this is a private place to swap some notes. I guess this will have to do. As you can tell, I don't do much as far as production value on these ones. These ones are strictly about content. So if you came to watch something fancy, I got a ton of cooking and coffee videos that are more than happy to be watched. Now we'll go with this. Screw it. So for the new guys, these are how it works. I don't look at the Patreon beforehand. I want to go over the issues in them live. So if there's research I need to do, resources I need to touch, I'm going to be doing it live so you guys can kind of see how we get to the point where we're at when it comes to talking red pill, when it comes to relationships and what have you. All right. I'm getting some kind of Blair Witch Project motion sickness going on here. So let's just side profile it. Fuck it. There we go. Just so you guys don't have to get sick watching this huge out of focus thing. Now, she just might work. This is kind of like the idea of we're sitting down chilling and I just turn over and say something to you guys on occasion. We're going to work with that. We'll see what happens. All right, welcome. Looking through Patreon, RNP. Why did I call it the RNP? Red Pilled Q&A, week 41, number 17. Fuck. I do say there's no production quality in these ones, but today I am putting that to the test. Just from the first one I've seen, you guys are making me laugh. All right. Now on these ones, one thing I will suggest for guys who are new and haven't done it before, try to get to the point and make sure the question you want answered is in there. If you do a long kind of rambling thing, I sometimes don't know exactly what answer you're looking to have, so I may not be able to give the proper one. If there's context that matters, feel free to put that in afterwards if you want to. The more honest you are, the easier it is for me to talk about things, because sometimes, like, yeah, AWOL, yeah, women sometimes do this stuff, but occasionally there's things that people do bury the lead totally. Like, for example, in Married Red Pill, there'd be a lot of times where guys were talking about dread completely blowing up in their face. And then the one thing they forgot to mention is that their wife's pregnant. And one thing guys have found is that when a wife's pregnant, her hormones are off the charts and you really have to dial back the kind of dread you do to keep her acting right. A little goes a long way. So hello, Justin Trudeau face. Cute. Let's get down and dirty. You might have spoken of this before. I'm quite new. Did your wife catch you with the common law marriage scenario, or did you let it slide? Is the red pill for you trying to make the best of a situation, and would you tell your clients to do things differently if they were in a common law scenario? There's two answers to this one. First off, mine. Thank you for taking an interest in my life. At the time, I was in the military. I had been dating her. She kind of lived at my place. She lived at her place. She had a key, nothing special. She wasn't on any bills or anything. So I was getting a little bit bored with my military career. At the time, I had done the deployment, done a shore posting, a ship posting, taught at the fleet school, basically all the naval positions. Now, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of not feeling it. So there was a position inland, and I'm like, okay, this is the only other position that my trade can have. So I'm going to try this one out, and we'll see if we stick it out. And if I like it there, then I'll stay in the military. Otherwise, I'll leave. And she was supposed to, and I was like, look, I'm moving over to Montreal. If you want to come with, that's cool. If not, stay here. If you want an out, here's your out. And I tried my best, but she came with me to Montreal. So what we did at the time is, since we're moving to Montreal anyway, we figured, why not get a stipend out of it? And so we had signed common law paperwork with the military. We had to get a waiver because at the time, I believe it was 6 months cohabitation until you were common law. Don't quote me on this one. The problem was the military didn't like that, because a guy can have a girlfriend, move in, go on deployment for 6 months, and come back divorced. So we had to get an exemption from it. Now, the benefits of the exemption is you would get a better per diem. It's like more than twice what you would get normally. More pay, plus you got like a cash payout for it. So it was a strictly financial position for me. She was happy either way. Then the second question, this is the one that's more important, because nobody really gives a shit about me, and you're not supposed to. It's more about the guys coming in. So is it red pill for you to try and make the best of the situation? In general, red pill is about finding your optimum strategy. So if guys are married, and this is one from the guy who created the Married Red Pill subreddit. His name's Isolos. I've spoken to him once out of like 5 years. He does not post very much, but in general, he's like, all right, on board, everything red pill is fine. Problem is, when a guy's got a wife, a mortgage, a family, kids, nexting a girl for the slightest infraction isn't exactly the best scenario, because the stakes are much higher. Divorce is bad. So and generally the idea was, it wasn't pro-marriage, it was anti-divorce rape. So he created this place. All right, so fine. Nexting is a great thing you should do. And if you're single, do it. Or if you're just dating, do it. Plates, do it. We're going to explore what some of the other strategies you can do that are between here and there that might be better for guys who are financially or otherwise engaged with a person that can't automatically leave. And that's how that one all started. So we never, and here's the thing, at least once every year, somebody will come up with a "would you do it again" post. I remember when I first got a chance to moderate down there, it was actually Hunter. At the time, I think he might have still been on his username Training the Brain, the old one, back when we first started. And he flat out said, yep, I'd do it again, marry my wife again. And then a bunch of the guys from the main subreddit came in. Everybody started puffing chest, a big ego battle. Anybody who's been paying attention to that old 21 convention shit from last year, exactly the same thing here, except for half the people were anonymous. So UEM McGill, who's one of the older mods, I believe he's in his 50s right now, and he's one of the first guys that started on there, decided to put out like a final, this is the end scenario, here's all the mod stance on getting married again. And everybody had the exact same answer. If I were today, knowing what I know now, want to get married, the answer was always no. Nobody said yes. Nobody. A lot of guys said they'd do a family again, but they wouldn't get married again. And it's weird because most normies don't really understand that there's a separation with that. They're not the same thing. So that would be the general red pill consensus. Having said that, even though it's a suboptimal strategy, I mean, you're giving up any dread you have in a relationship. The more comfortable a girl is, the more confident she is that she doesn't have to try. And so it really works against you. The question you have to ask yourself when it comes to red pill and marriage is, what do I get out of this being a marriage that I don't otherwise get when it's just a long-term relationship? The only answer, well, there's two answers I've seen that make sense. The first one is the girl says, well, I'll just leave if he doesn't. Basically threat point, which if you're a guy and you don't have a lot of options and that's your best option, I can see guys falling. In fact, I'll see a lot of guys falling for it. I wouldn't exactly call it red pill, but if you're on the abstract scenario that your choice is either to marry that girl or to be single for the rest of your life, obviously it's a better choice. I don't believe that any guy is that poorly done by in the sexual marketplace that those are his only two options. The second reason, and this is one that actually makes sense, is if you're a jet setter, if you are an expat, if you work for like a diplomats or any type of thing where you need to be in foreign soil often, legally, it might be impossible to have any kind of relationship or family rights without a marriage certificate. In that case, I mean, career-wise and lifestyle-wise, that one makes sense there. Plus, it's the fact that you're hidden in a different country. It's kind of a risky deal to begin with. So hopefully that answers your question. You'll notice at least on Twitter and Reddit, I've given up trying to preach guys don't get married, because the ones who want to get married won't fucking listen. And the ones who have been divorced don't need to hear it. They already know. So you'll notice I don't pronounce anti-marriage strategies on Twitter very much, because it's just not worth the hassle. If somebody's willing to listen, they should be able to draw the connections on their own. But yeah, for my clients, so normally with the clients that I've had on my consulting, it's either single guys who don't want to get married or guys who are on the cusp of divorce, and they initially come to me saying, I want to get my wife back. What do I do? Point there is to fix it. Usually it's a 3-step process. The first step is to get them to understand the dynamics of what's happened. Like if a girl's cheating and she wants to make it work again, we'll walk them through. Okay, so she feels remorseful. Well, let's go through this checklist of steps and see if she's actually remorseful or if she's just playing lip service because she's worried, or her Chad that she slept with doesn't want to keep her. And so the guy goes through that, and so far 100% of the time, the guy realizes, no, she isn't sorry she did it. She's sorry she got caught. She's also doing more shit, and the guy just learns to take back his balls, and then the strategy switches more to a divorce single guy strategy. Guys like Beckett on Twitter is a great example of what's going on there. I will say from a consulting standpoint, these are my favorite clients because A, they are fearless. They have goals and they're like, after that bitch is divorced, I will go out and get mine. And they do awesome. I honestly think if single guys were offered a divorce when they turn 18 and move out of their parents' house, they'd probably be a lot more sexually successful in their 20s. So ooh, looks like we got some follow-ups on this one, so we're going to carry that one through. It's awful quiet here today. Usually there's a couple guys in the chat. Not that that's a bad thing. It's fine. Ooh. One sec. StreamYard has done some wonderful new thing here where it just posts the entire thing into a series of quotes. So I got to make sure I'm doing it. Oh, here we go. So this is kind of rolling into it too. The big scale question: what is the red pill argument for being in an LTR or cohabitating, as in what's in it for men? We're all familiar with the myriad of reasons why legal marriage is a bad idea, but even though many I really wish you guys would stop fluffing us with shit like guru and luminaries. I guess you got to come up with a term, so I can't think of a better one. Use what you use. You, Rolo Rich, more or less regularly espouse that men and women are better together than apart. Reasons why are often assumed or glossed over. Can you lay out more specifically what it is men gain from LTRs that make them worth playing the game on hard mode? First, hard mode. It's not hard mode. The only reason the hard mode came out originally because a lot of guys, like married guys, like to puff their chests a bit and like, yeah, I'm doing this. Is more difficult because with a plate, you just have to be on for 8 hours when she's at your place. After that, you could be Cheeto wearing nobody. But talking with Carl on this one and his perpetual bachelorhood, it's kind of funny because he basically had to be on 24/7. Otherwise, he would have maybe a girl every 3 months and that. So unless you're not very successful, you don't have to, or you have to try. Basically, you have to be on, which is the same as the married guy. So it turns out the only difference is whether you have somebody there seeing you when you're not trying or not. But the success rate's hard mode either way. Men and women are better together than apart. So you're looking for reasons why we're better together than apart. Coach? Yeah, fuck you, Hector. Oh, if you guys ever call me a coach, Jesus Christ. What was the thing? Oh, reasons to have one. Okay. I'm not going to lie to you. When you're doing something, starting a business or going to school, like anytime you have a long-term project that you're doing that's a multi-year thing, Having somebody at home is so much easier than having to go out and run game. It's kind of the equivalent of spinning multiple plates, but with much less of a time investment, which is nice. For those who want to start a family, if you want kids, you're going to need a vagina. There's just no way around it. And so an LTR for a guy who wants a family, an LTR is the minimum opt-in you need to be able to. Until they start having sex dolls offering fake wombs so you can get them fake pregnant too, like you're going to need a girl. Plus, lots of guys like having moms around. Most divorced guys aren't sole custody, so I don't even like, and I don't like, and this is ultimately going to be a personal question for anybody who's there with that girl, but I don't like the argument that she cooks and cleans it as domestic. Devaluing female company to that of a maid and a prostitute. At that point, you can do a cost-benefit analysis, and Terrence Popp actually did a cost-benefit analysis. What he found out was that it's actually cheaper to outsource that. Hire a maid, hire a hooker 3 times a week or 2 times a week or even 1 time a week if you're just that kind of guy. And end of the day, at least according to the average stats based on how much couples spend over a lifetime versus single guys, he found out it's like 20 grand cheaper, something like that. You'll have to go watch the video. I can't remember which one it was, but it was absolutely hilarious. Probably my second favorite Terrence Popp video. And then beyond that, cost per pump, he called it. Actually, that is what he called it, I believe. Beyond that, it's understanding our animal nature. We are hardwired to seek out women. I know, yeah, we're made to like impregnate as many women as possible, but guys have this drive to seek comfort through women. And so it's also a strange question. It's partially our biological prerogative to have ourselves a small harem. Now, the most stable harem setup we've had so far is one girl, monogamy. And then at the same time, it doesn't last forever. I don't expect mine and I to die in each other's arms, super in love. I just know it's going to last as long as it lasts, and then it's going to be done. And, you know, I'm just cool with that. Life lasts as long as it lasts for. What else are you going to do? But really on these ones, it's kind of the question. I shouldn't have to answer it for you. The girl that you're with who wants to keep you around, she should have to answer it for you. So if you're not getting a hell yes because the girl you're with is on her best behavior over an extended period of time, an extended period of time is big because anybody can fake it for a year. Come the 13-month mark, though, it's almost impossible to fake it much longer than that. And so you really have to extend it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. So hopefully that gives you a better... Man, I don't like this shot at all. It's fucking ridiculous. Let's see if we can do this a bit better. We're up to 112 now, and I'm giving you guys my B game when it comes to like camera angles and shit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? All right, we're going to do the next question here. All right, close enough. Yeah, fuck it. It's going to be what it's going to be. I really should buy a wide-angle lens. If I get a 16 millimeter, these things will be much better, and I can have this thing right up in my ass without having it look like you're trying to check out my freckles. Next question. I am working on Dread Level 6 and trying to learn game. I am currently reading Daybang. Are there any other suggestions for content and advice for a beginner? I'm married and quickly realizing my relationship game sucks. So you are married and you want... Oh, okay. So you're on Dread Level 6. First thing you do is practice on your wife. Okay. Recommendations. I got 3-pronged assault on this one. Obviously, Daybang. I find that one to be the best paint-by-numbers guide out there. Roosh is essentially the Raphael of pickup. If you guys don't know, Raphael is an artist. He essentially took the best techniques of all the other high Renaissance artists and did them himself. So, yeah, take what works. Obviously, the M3 mystery method, I like that because of the structure it gives and then a lot of the basic concepts. Don't take it too literally as a game manual. You're mostly in there to learn about the structure and then apply it within your relationship or with Strange, whatever. Third one is, was it Ian Ironwood or Athol K? Hold on a second here. The book is called Sex God Method. Oh, it's Daniel Rose. I don't know why I thought that was Athol K. Sex God Method is great. Oh, it's a YouTube video. Fuck that. It goes over the concept of Devi, which I cannot believe I can't remember it. It's like desire, emotion, validation, and intensity, I think it was. It's essentially an acronym of all the things you want in place to be able to get a girl's emotional investment, which eventually leads to sex. I like that one as well. And it's a really nice starter along with Daybang for working with your wife or in a relationship. It doesn't work so much on canned routines as it is techniques and that. If you really want to get into the weeds, what you might want to do is go into Practical Female Psychology by David Franco. Not so much there because teaches you pickup, but the section on archetypes, definitely worth the read there. So you can find out, is your girl a good girl? Is she a materialista? Is she an adventurous? And based on those, or at least understanding the archetypes, even if you're going to go out and do catch and release or get somebody on the side, whatever, by understanding the archetypes, you're better able to tailor your game. So if you're with an adventurous, you know she's going to be big on like Us versus the World, for example, which is a routine that they did in Mystery Method. Or if you have a good girl, you know that in public, like be very strong with the plausible deniability, because she treats her appearance and reflection like, oh, I'm a good girl. I'm not very rude or mean, sexual. She treats that as sacrosanct. So if you can show that you can have that level of discretion, it really helps bring out the inner slut. There we go. This is one that matters if you're one of those guys that turns down sex because it's not genuine desire. It's really illuminating. It shows you from giant studies, tens of thousands of women, for the different reasons that they have sex, sexual deception, starfish, all that stuff. If you have any hangups about the kind of sex you're getting and you can't quite articulate why, if it's more than just enthusiasm, then that's a good book to help you understand the mental models you may be applying and the ones that women actually do apply to relationship. Am I good now? Better? Should be back up now. I do not like the all right, golden. Thank God. I could tell there's a bit of a delay here. By the time I got that warning, I think I already had it fixed, so my bad. And then for a beginner, the best thing I can say is, yeah, the books and that are great, but just work up your approaches. Start with approaches, even if you have to ask 50 people for the time. The reason I like Mystery is because it gives you a 9-point checklist, 3 steps, 3 substeps. So if you really don't know where to start, you just work on, the initial attraction phase. You get your openers down, you get your attractions down, your display of higher values. Once you get these basic stuff down, you can see where your weak spots are. So maybe your weak spot is in breaking Kino too early or too late. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it, Marty. We're at where we're at. You're just going to have to deal with it. Oh, wait, there we go. There we go. It's almost like a normal video now. Yeah, I've had this thing out for the longest time because if you haven't noticed, we've had completely to redo all the footage for the videos now that we got the new kitchen. So I'm probably going to have to do it again once we get our tiles picked out. Oh, and you know what? Unpussified had something in here. He assumes the primary issue is frame. He's got a pretty switched on take on it here. Something to keep in mind when you're doing Dread Level 6. Obviously, if you've escalated to this point, I'm hoping you've got past the point where you're doing this to win her back. You're doing this to make sure that once she decides to be cunty enough that you leave, that you're in a good position to get other women. And it's on her to fight her way back into your life. Pressure flips is always like that. Where am I going with this one here? Yeah. So to make sure you're not doing this as a covert contract trying to win her back, this is why catch and release is so important. If you're fully against, and I think that's step 7. So like, don't rush it. But if you're very against doing any sexual contact with a girl, even just like, sexy words and whatever, then you realize you're still validation seeking with your wife and you're probably doing it for her. So the day you have no fear and almost enjoy flirting with other women outside your marriage, that's when you know you're not doing it for her, because you're just an attractive guy doing attractive things, being attractive because you like being charismatic and attractive, with the side effect being that women tend to enjoy your company. It's a skill set just like any other. This question, I think I'm going to like this one. Ryan, can you explain it to me like I'm retarded? What the hell is flirting, really? I was thinking about it and I realized I couldn't put it into words, but most likely already do it and could recognize it when I see it, but I can't put a label to the concept. Cheers, all. See, this is a funny thing. I've never really thought about this one, so I'll think it through as we're going through. Obviously, flirting doesn't necessarily mean sleeping with somebody, because everybody's known that cock tease once in their life who's a huge flirt, refuses to touch anybody, and just likes the validation. So it's not strictly a tool to get sex, because it's been used for more than that. It's not strictly a tool to get validation either, because some guys, like, aloofness is a very sexual, flirtatious action, but there's no validation in it whatsoever. It's more so just playing with a toy before you end up taking it home and banging the shit out of it. So it's a good question then. How would you define flirting? I would just say flirting is to game what small talk is to conversation. Yeah, adding a sexual element to an otherwise normal engagement. It's pretty straightforward there. From a girl's aspect, I would put something in there about availability as well, letting you know that she's available. And from a guy's perspective, letting you know he's interested. Which makes sense why a lot of guys find emotional validation to be just as more damaging than sex, or girls do anyway, because they assume that's how guys think, the same way girls do. And for girls, flirting is a way of signaling that you're available. Actually, that might be a better way there. I wish I had more Evo Psych background to completely kill the magic of flirting by giving it a proper definition, but I suppose that's the best way to put it. Now, if you're wondering that because is my wife flirting or is she not flirting? Trust your gut on these ones. Even if we don't know these terms hands down, yeah, it could just be to show a bit of interest. Now, the reason why is, multifaceted, but this is one of those ones where I try not to overanalyze the basics. Like, as long as I have an intuitive sense of what flirting is and can describe it in a better term than vibrations and magic and all that shit, then I tend to be good enough with that. Next one, Ryan, when attempting to watch this video, it tells me you were live October 11th. Fuck. That sucks. No, that's from a new guy. He didn't know how these things work. He thought it was just going to be already up. And I'm like, no. I put these ones up live. And I think I put that at the beginning of this video. If not, if you guys are catching in late, the reason I do these is so you guys can get answers and resources towards your relationship or single guy problems, or just to get some better understanding about the sexual marketplace. I do them live because I know everybody's going to be on different schedules when it comes to time zones and work. So we're going to set up this little private space where we can talk about this stuff. unfiltered. As you notice, I've already said retard. I might have even dropped an F-bomb. I don't know. Oh, you fucking asshole. As a coach, in your experience, not a coach. And I'll tell you why in a second. What are the differences between guys that have failed and guys that are success stories on your consulting? Thanks. I know this is like really trivial, but it's kind of important. So I don't do coaching. I don't think anybody who is a coach is honest with themselves. Either they don't know the distinction or they don't care. A coach is accountable. If you're a coach of a football team, your football team winning or losing, you're held accountable for that. The problem with this is there's no accountability. So I can't, even if I wanted to, there is no way that I could take accountability for anybody's relationship, marriage, or even them just trying to get a little poon on the side through my sessions. It's just impossible. So it's a matter of the lack of accountability and responsibility. So coaching is not a proper way to define it. I think people like it because it has a sports reference and dudes like sports references. The reason I go with consulting is because it generally does fit a consultant model. Consultants advise, they don't direct. If you've ever worked in corporate, if you've ever hired Deloitte, PwC, or any of those companies for it, they will tell you very clearly, and any documentation they give you will have like a 3-page disclaimer in the first section saying what they are held responsible for and what they're not responsible for. And if you're a good consultant, you take responsibility for as absolute little as you can. The reason I like that model here is something that Rule Zero Dad and I were talking about when it came to Jack Ten of Hearts. If you guys don't know, a very prolific poster, talked a lot. Any guy who had a problem, he would have like a 4,000-word essay completely breaking down and analyzing the guy's situation. And then the guy would just leave. He wouldn't do anything, and Jack burned out and left. By ensuring that you understand where the responsibility lies, it's really the core of being red-pilled. You're responsible for your own life. Now, when I first started this, I charged way too little. And the problem with that is when you charge too little, people value it commensurate with that, with what they pay for it. I remember one guy even said, "I'm hoping you can fix me." And I remember right there, I was like, look, I don't fix anybody. I don't fix you guys. I provide information and a person to bang on with accountability, some discretion, research that you can pull on yourself, as well as guidance. But I'm not responsible for your life. You are. So you have to be the one who takes ownership of this stuff. If I give advice and you don't think it matches your personal situation or it doesn't map to your life, it's on you to understand that and not take it, or to articulate that so we can work on an alternate solution. I think anybody who's honest in this space needs to be very clear about this point. I'm assuming most don't, because making it sound like you're his best friend and you will fix his problems without directly saying you're not accountable is a much better business strategy. But screw it. I'd rather go back to corporate than pull that. It's very snake oily and I don't like it. I also don't call it counseling. I call it consulting for the same reason. Counseling, it's got too much of a victim mindset to it. I'm having problems and I need counsel. I don't like that. Anything that even crosses into like the world is against me bullshit, I'll shut that down right now. But to your actual question that you asked, now that I've gotten that huge disclaimer out of the way, what are the differences between the guys that fail and the ones that are success stories? And it's funny because the failures don't do anything. The failures treat me as a sounding board. And I fucking hate that. A lot of guys will ask me questions. How do I fix this? How do I fix that? And I either know the answer because multiple guys have tried it and this is the results they had by doing this. Like, for example, and I think I mentioned it before in a couple podcasts ago, where I always call it the under 30 and the over 40 crowd are the two types of people that we end up on in my consulting. The under 30 crowd, their biggest problem is they refuse to do anything. You will tell them all kinds of things. I'm like, yeah, here's how you do approaches. Here's how you build your confidence. Here's how you do workouts and that. And then they'll come back and they're like, how many approaches did you do last month? None. 1, 2. They're like, oh, for fuck's sakes. But and this is usually, I don't know if it's because guys are divorced or guys are older. The over 40 crowd, it's, all right, how did last week go? Oh, great. First day kind of sucked. Second day was better. Third day, I actually got my first close. It's amazing. Then I wanted to try something different. So I bought my Chad friend out, my natural chatty friend out with me, and found out he has no game. He gets by completely on looks. So not only will they do things, but they'll actually use it as a learning experience for themselves to learn things that we had never even discussed and they never thought to ask. So if you want to know the difference between guys that failed and ones that are success stories, are the ones that do not fear failure in the short term to get success in the long term. Honestly, guys, like, this is a very simple set of strategies. The difficulty comes with implementation. And I find the longer I do this, that's where the true value is. And that's the stuff that takes the time investment. And that's the stuff that, unfortunately, I have to charge more for because it takes more of an investment from me. And I've only got so much time in a day. But if you can take nothing from this, take this. Go out and do shit. Go fail, go fuck up, go be wrong. Follow some like general guidance rules, but and then have the self-awareness to map it to your situation. If you're married, hitting on the waitress, not a smart idea. That's not how catch and release works. If you're just talking to people when you're out and about by yourself, or whether she's off doing her own thing and it just so happens to be flirty, then so much the better. If you're single, get your approaches in. I know there's a bit of a hullabaloo right now because some evil pickup artist did some rape things by talking to girls in the street in the UK, but you know, fuck it. Nobody's going to charge you for walking up to somebody and saying hi. They'll try to charge you if you assault somebody or start yelling at them when they turn you down. So just try things. Did I already say you need to do things? Otherwise, this doesn't work. Actually, there's a good point. Marty had a comment below it too. He would say that anger makes people change more than anything and develop better mental models. And he's right. It's something I've known for years now, and we've talked about it incessantly. And Dr. Smith was the one to help me like articulate it in more medical type jargon. But people have a level of neuroplasticity in our brain. It's because using the brain takes energy, and so our brains are very lazy. If we can put something onto an autopilot, we will. And that's what mental models are. Things that you don't have to think about, and you just kind of know how it goes. Same as after you've watched a movie 5 or 6 times, you can kind of cook dinner and you know where it's going on the thing. Or after watching Die Hard for 10 Christmases in a row, you can quote the movie verbatim. It's the same thing. When you're angry, your body understands that that's a social mechanism for an emotional grievance. Anger is a very specific emotion. Anger is, best example I can think of, you stub your toe. You get hurt. You may swear, you may yell, but you're not angry. But somebody stubs your toe, somebody drops a hammer on it, and you think they did it on purpose, you get angry. So it requires that social grievance to create it. Now, the thing with this, though, is the male brain understands that anger means that one of your mental models aren't working. And so what it does is, and I'm not sure the process, but it increases your neuroplasticity. What that means is the ability of your brain to make new connections, create new mental models, new pathways, all the sciencey shit. Being angry is the best way to fix a fucked up part of your life. And it's almost required. I've yet to see anybody successfully take the pill who hasn't come from any sort of trauma at first. And I can't really think of a better word. Something pissed you off, and so you made yourself better. That's almost always the way it works. Hector brings up a good point here, so I'm going to expand upon this one. The hard part is going from anger or habit to discipline. Yes. Luckily, we've had enough people that did it the hard way and wrote down what they did. And that's where the red pill body of work came from. Essentially, okay, you're angry. What do you do with that? And this is where we differ from the MGTOWs. They just say, juice isn't worth a squeeze and leave it at that. From a red pill perspective, first off, you got to understand why you're angry. The reason that chicks are fucking horrible at this is when a guy is angry, they only think about solipsism. How does this make me? And they're worried that A, the guy being angry reflects on them being a bad person because they did something wrong, and they cannot have that. And B, angry men are dangerous men, and so they want to placate him or get him removed by other men. So when a guy is angry, The natural response from women is to tell you to go die in a ditch, or please don't, or tell you what you want to hear to make you feel better. They don't want to fix you. So guys, understand, the first thing you got to do, you can't tell a guy not to be angry. Women do that. By telling a guy that, you're dismissing the emotion as invalid. The problem is it's not a frontal lobe decision. It's a limbic brain decision. So when you're angry, the best way to continue to be angry is to have somebody dismiss your anger as not valid. Now, that's not to say it is valid, but the guy who's experiencing it has perceived it as valid. So you have to acknowledge that as he sees it, this is an injustice and will not stand. Now, this leaves two scenarios. The guy is angry and justifiably should be, or the guy is angry and his expectations were off kilter. Either way, that gives you a path forward on what work you need to do. For the guy who actually has been aggrieved unjustly, then it's a matter of fixing it. No problem's insurmountable. Nothing's going to kill you. Sometimes it's a case of your girlfriend or your wife cheated on you. You're angry because of it, and just kick her to the curb, live your life on your own, and make sure that you don't put yourself in that situation for that to happen again. Or it's the case that all women are bitches, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, that kind of crap. You get really angry about it, and you realize you've just set expectations for what to expect from a woman is too high. Your wife is not your best friend, for example. Women can love you the way that your mom does or the way you want them to. Once you realize that these things can happen. And so aligning your expectations with reality and then getting to a place where you're okay with that is the other path to take. And those are generally the two paths you get. Remove grievance, fix expectations. And this is where you'll come outside of the anger phase as a guy with, you still are a little bit dismissive of women. Like, yeah, I'm sure you're very smart. I love your corporate job. That's great. How good are you at a blowjob, essentially? And so you understand what women are like. Okay, if I end up being a complete waste of space, she's not going to love me through thick and thin. She's going to love me through thick and enough thin that she still thinks there's hope that I'll pull out of it. But after that, she's going to be moving on. She's going to start dressing better, getting in better shape. She's going to start looking for a new guy because she won't ditch me until she does. And you'll see all these signs and you know things are coming and you can take action. And then you're okay with that. You're like, okay, so this is how the world works. Gravity always works. Fire always makes heat. And girls are always hypergamous. And then that's fine. And you realize, okay, now what do I do? And then you go to maximize your own happiness, enjoy it for the length of time it exists, and then let it go when you're done. And I think that's a wonderful, self-aware, masculine way of dealing with the world. It's almost like Tao. Or what was the French one? It was a Napoleon or George, or I can't remember which king it was, but he'd asked, I believe it was Voltaire, give me something that'll help me get through the best of times and the worst of times. And he just wrote on a piece of paper like, this too will pass. She's not yours. It's just your turn. And if you take nothing else from your time watching me run my mouth on these things, understand that the goal for a red-pilled man isn't to get a woman or all women to do something. It's not to be a playboy, although you can be. It's not to make your wife act right. It's not to make girls think of you as a macho, an alpha playboy or whatever, be an alpha male, that shit. No. It's to reset your expectations to align with reality, regardless of the manipulation that comes from the outside world, and then to act within that framework in your own best interests for the length of time that you can. Pretty straightforward. How are we doing on time? Actually, this is not bad. All right. And yeah, if you guys don't know, I'm going to be doing these as 2 parts now. I broke them down as an hour at a time because I didn't like the idea of you guys spending 2 hours listening to me run my mouth. But, all right. So far, we're making good time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll finish this one, and we're going to switch over to the second episode. I do believe I made a second post for this one, but in the future, what I'm going to do is in the weekly Q&A threads, I'm just going to put a link to the second podcast at the bottom of the post so you can stay within the same one. The questions are all centralized, and we don't have to worry about it. Next one here, it's a bit of a serious one. I will be divorced soon, and I'm still in the early stages of the process when I was fully committed to my marriage. I rarely went out to have a drink or beer with my friends. I know. You don't know. That's fine. You know now. I have been alone the last 2 weeks. My wife left the house with my daughter and is now with her parents. That's like an hour and a half away or something like that, wasn't it? For the last 2 weeks, my wife left the house with the daughter and is now with her parents. In this time, I went out to have a drink with my friends a couple of times. In one of these drinking sessions, I met a girl who was down for business. I did not do anything since I am still married. Also, the girl was not all that attractive, like a 6. Oh man, this is a big question. My question is, how do I move to be able to open a girl to a more younger and hotter ones? Is it maybe just a matter of increasing my social circle, increasing my SMV, or am I missing something? Yes, yes, and yes. Go to my blog. There is a post where oh no, it's on my old blog. That's right. You know what? I'm gonna pull up a link to it. Ryan Stone. And that's ryanstonept.blogspot.com. Horrible writing. It was like my first couple years. I think it was 3 years actually, but I never updated the thing. Just to have year 0 and year 1 on there. So they're definitely a harder read because this is basically me when I was full on still swallowing the pill and wasn't able to articulate my thoughts well enough. I'm going to pull up the link to this one. I know exactly which one I'm looking for too. It's a real early one. Don't get some media. Turn off your brain. What if the red pill is wrong? Damaged goods. Magic wands. Judging another man. Building up abundance. A red pill map over 6 months. This is you. And you're going to love it. I'm going to put it in the comments here. I'm not going to link it because it's just showing it on the screen won't really matter. Oh, wait. I'm going to keep that one up. And I'm going to put it underneath your post in the Patreon thread as well. We'll break down. There's a few points I wanted to hit on your thing here, so we'll hit them all up in order. First point, good. Now that you're out going to see your friends, like first off, this is like textbook female manipulation. I had a friend, Colin. He was sailed on a different ship. He was dating this French chick, Ellie. And it was exactly that. Soon as they started dating, and he's one of those guys that always wanted a girlfriend, always wants a wife, had a family as quickly as possible. So he fell for any girl who gave him the time of day and was easy on the eyes. So what she would do, and it's very subtle, the manipulation girls do here when they don't want to share you and they try to isolate you, which pretty much the first step towards a mental abuse. Like a lot of girls accuse guys of doing it, but they are the kings because guys don't even know what's happening. So what happens is, first off, they isolate. You can't just say, I don't want you hanging out with your friends, but some do try that bullying if it works. A more clever way is by playing wounded. There's also a post I have on manipulation. That one's on the ryanstone.com blog. Manipulation's a field guide, I believe it's called. But so what she'll do, and it talks about the different types of manipulation. If it's not, it's on the old blog. And there's also a video by AFSTLOV. He did it, a little animated one. I think I got that on my YouTube channel also with like animations or videos. So here's the thing. She plays wounded. Oh, I have a headache. Can you stay here and take care of me? And they play to your sympathies. Most guys love their wives. Go figure. They love their girlfriends. They want to treat them well. And when they're wounded, they want to nurse them back to health because it makes you feel like a man to be able to take care of the poor defenseless women. Problem is, every time you want to go out with your friends, she pulls it. She's sick. Can't believe you would do this. Can't you tell I'm having a bad day? She basically tailors her emotions that they become strongest and most in need of you every time that you're going to go out and do your own thing. I won't get into why they do it. Just know that they do it, and don't navel gaze it and analyze it too much, because that's how a lot of guys end up being fully aware of how they're being manipulated, yet it still happens. So eventually it starts with that. And then the guy, it usually happens so subtly, the guy doesn't notice. He hasn't talked to any of his friends in a year and they don't invite him out anymore. And he's essentially isolated. Then when that happens, that's when she can step up emotional abuse. So like I said, very clever. You were saying you couldn't take her home because you're still married. I'm assuming you've spoken to a lawyer right now, and you should speak to a lawyer. Find out what divorce law is like in your country. I don't know any of your state's jurisdictions. I just know in the US, Canada, and most other Western countries, the process of divorce is no fault. They're strictly looking at a proper separation of assets and understanding that any children from the marriage are taken care of. They don't care if anybody cheated, did crack, or whatever. So if your lawyer suggests that any infidelity will be seen as detrimental for your case, then yeah, obviously don't, or at least be extremely discreet when you do. But if you're going to find out that it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. She left, she took the kids. At this point, you're single. Faster you can come to terms with that, the better. Now, the reason I put that post in there, I did not do anything since I'm still married. Also, the girl was not at all attractive, like a 6. The post I had here was about a guy getting into the bush leagues. He was divorced. He had been... Okay, same in Mexico. So yeah, the cheating doesn't even matter. At this point, she's already separated from you. All that you guys are missing is paperwork to go with it. What I loved about this, and I remember copying it because I'm like, I don't know how long this guy's going to be here, but he basically laid out the first 6 months of his post-divorce life. And if you'll read it, very short read. His first date was with a 50-year-old professional, and he fucked up the date bad. He talked about his ex too much. He got too loaded. How else did he go on there? We're not going to sleep together, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so he passed out on the floor when they were fooling around. She's naked, him not. He basically screwed up his game in all ways possible. So when you're getting divorced and it's your first tale, you actually kind of want a girl you're not into because you're going to fuck it up. And he did good. But then second month, he starts online dating. He uses OkCupid, a lot more interest. And he starts getting, like, as he refers to her, a sloppy Asian girl. He eventually gets like a single mother. And you'll notice he's like literally going up the hierarchy on valuable women because he's learning to get his game better, his mindset better, he's working out, he's getting better looking. And then by the time he gets to his 6th month, he finds out he's got, I think it was 5 or 6 months in here anyways. Wonderful, wonderful revelation. He's at the bar and he's talking with this girl. He calls her a 7 out of 10. It's like, oh, she's the cutest girl yet. But she was kind of giving him attitude. And he's like, do I really want to put up with this? Like, I got a 5 at home and she's not the greatest, but she's there. And I can have her anytime I want to. And so he kind of, by building himself up through those bush leagues, he actually built himself abundance. I think one of the worst disservices a guy can do post-divorce to get back in the game is limit himself to only the hottest girls. I think there is nothing more freeing than slaying a few dragons and realizing that it doesn't truly matter. Screw up your game on ones you don't want to keep. In fact, I even suggest this with single guys. Hit on a girl you don't like. Try to sleep with a girl you don't like. I dare you to be able to. And you know what? If you get to the point that she's like, let's go back to your place, you can say, no, I'll catch you later. Full permission in this strategy. Pick up a girl, take her as far as you can, short of putting her into your house. Give her. I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, you're probably not taking her home anyway. But what you will develop is game. Because you don't like her, so you're not focused on losing her or scarcity or any of that crap. You're focused on the elements of game. Am I attracting her? Am I getting good body language signals? And you're also, maybe you haven't seen an IOI from a girl in 5 years since you were married last. It's also good to see what a girl looks like when she's interested in you because you probably have no fucking clue. So at the very least, knowing these signs is a good thing. So don't even worry about Uggs. As long as you can get hard, I'd say go for it. Worst case scenario, you're going to have a story that you tell your friends, don't ever bring this up again. They'll laugh at you. But you know what? It's a bonding experience. I'd say enjoy it. Enjoy the shit out of it. All right, on that note, what are we on in here? Just about time. What I'm going to do now is switch over to the second cast, and we're going to start up with the next question from there. See you guys in a bit. Probably just a minute or two at the most.